chances are you've heard of the Buffalo Soldiers, Bob Marley, even a recorded song about them. But who exactly were they?
They were a segregated part of the Army Cavalry after the Civil War, and they actually played an important role here in Arizona decades before we became a state. And now there's work underway to keep that history alive for generations to come. Wesley Bolin Plaza is lined with monuments honoring those who have served in uniform. But one group of soldiers seems to have faded into Arizona's history.
The Buffalo Soldiers represented courage, dignity, pride.
Fred and Michelle Marable, who founded the Buffalo Soldiers of the Arizona Territory, want to place a monument near the state capitol, honoring the Buffalo Soldiers, who were nicknamed by the Cheyenne people for their toughness in the late 1800s.
Most of these men were slaves and free men that went into the Civil War and started fighting then. The dedication that they showed, they didn't back down from anything.
And they played a major role in the development of the Arizona Territory.
They mapped out your major highways, protected the gold mines, protected the stagecoach lines, telegraph lines.
The major Buffalo Soldier regiments were trained and stationed at Fort Huachuca in the southern part of the state.
They were looked at as some of the best soldiers in the Army at the time.
Paul Pipick is director of the Fort Huachuca Museums. He says life in the Army was not easy in the late 1800s. And although there was segregation, members of the Buffalo Soldiers were respected for their dedication.
They were a very cohesive type of organization because their soldiers tended to stay longer, gain experience.
Deployed throughout the Arizona Territory, some of their missions included engineering projects, law enforcement, battles with local tribes, and securing the southern border.
They basically became the Border Patrol, and they occupied a series of satellite facilities from Nogales all the way over to Douglas.
Everything was wild out here in the West. These men come along and they were like homeland security, and they need to be recognized.
And the historians are one step closer to bringing the Buffalo Soldiers out of the shadows of Arizona's history. 2 years ago, the state approved the monument for Wesley Bolin.
This is home for them. They protected it. They deserve it.
And as we continue to observe Black History Month throughout February, the Buffalo Soldiers of Arizona Territory are working to fund that monument. They need to raise more than $400,000 by the end of the year. If you go to the 12 News app right now, you'll find information on how you can contribute to that cause.
Now, here's another historic fact for you. Back during the Spanish-American War, members of the Buffalo Soldiers helped protect then Assistant Secretary of the Navy, Theodore Roosevelt, who, of course, as you know, would go on to be our nation's 26th president.